Hi folks, this is Harley at MI2 with this first of a three-part set of video tutorials on how to work with the reminders of the CDR or Clinical Decision Rule module in OpenEMR5. The other videos will show creating a CDR and using a CDR. The content in the videos can also be found in the relevant wiki pages. A few things to know here. I'm using the development version of OpenEMR5, so the regular wiki page hasn't been set up yet. However, as of version 5, you can get to the wiki site user guide of whatever version you have through the EMR. Up there on the main navigation menu, you click About and then hit User Manual, and then that brings up the wiki page for whichever version you've got. Now, the CDR documents are under Supplementary Topics. On down here, Survey, Create Using CDR. Okay, another thing is that OpenEMR has had CDRs for quite a while, but it's only since version 4.2.1 that they were modular certified for meaningful use. That involved a fair amount of interface and coding changes. So you might want to review this documentation to see how things are now. And even though we're talking about version 5 here, these instructions do apply back to version 4.2.1. Now let me just mention a couple CDR basics. A CDR actually stands for Clinical Decision Rule, the logic that triggers the reminder, which is commonly also called a CDR, Clinical Decision Reminder. The reminder is an automated message from the EMR that reminds practitioners to carry out some task as recommended by some authoritative treatment guideline. Now, I just want to run you through really quick where the different CDR screens are located in OpenEMR and what is done at each one. The CDRs are visible in three places in OpenEMR. The most commonly seen in daily use is the Clinical Reminder widget here at the top right of the patient record summary screen. The primary features of the Clinical Reminder widget are the blue and black text entries, and they do different things, and you'll see what they do in the third video. Also, the edit button plays an important part in this whole thing, and that's also described in the third video. The second place you find CDRs, going from the main navigation menu, Administration, Rules, is the Rules and Plans configuration screen. Plans configuration is a topic for another day. We're looking at the rules, and this screen lists all of the CDRs. Both the default prefabricated ones that OpenEMR comes with, and that annual wellness check that I created when I made the written documents for the wiki on creating a CDR. This screen is where you start when you go to make your own CDR. You click on that Add New button and start rocking. Now, in the different wiki documentation sources, you'll see the term reminders referring to a couple different things. These CDRs, Clinical Decision Rules, that I'm talking about are all considered reminders. OpenEMR also has another type of reminder that I'll mention, well, right here. The third location that you find CDRs is Administration Alerts. This panel does several things. It lists all the CDRs under the title column, tells if they're active alerts, passive alerts, or patient reminders, and it can be any of the three or all three. And the patient reminder is that other type of reminder. Patient reminders are managed by a totally different module which emails reminder messages to patients. Like I say, that's a whole different capability, but it does use these CDR rules, so that's why you see them here. And we won't be talking about them. The last column is the access control setting that each rule has. Meaningful use requires that a CDR have fine-grained control on it which means that the users who can see it and use it can be individually specified. And this is where those access controls are set. By default, anybody whose user account lets them work with the patient records can see and use all the CDRs. More on that in videos 2 and 3. Okay, so let's take a look at the tool used to build clinical decision rules. That will be under Administration, Rules, and let's just take a look at the colon cancer screening. Okay, so on the screen, each shaded section deals with one of the types of settings that make up a rule. The summary covers, is it an active, a passive alert, or a patient reminder? Meaningful use requires that the developer, funding source, and release number of this CDR be displayed. And also you need a web reference to that authoritative treatment guideline that dictates the terms of this rule. Okay, back to the summary, or the rule detail. The next section is reminder intervals, which talks about when the different types of alerts come out. This one controls the reminder intervals for both the clinical and the patient, those patient reminders, and also the clinical reminders. You get the warning that the procedure is due for 2 weeks, and then for a month you get a past due warning. Okay, the demographics filter criteria. These are the characteristics of the patients that this CDR applies to. This one is simple. Anybody with a minimum age in years of 50. So anybody 50 years old or older will be looked at to see if this reminder applies. But they can get really complex because these filters draw from any and all of the types of data that is recorded by OpenEMR about a patient. Now, in the target action groups, a CDR can have several of this group of filters. This one has got just one. Clinical targets. The clinical targets are the treatment goal that this CDR addresses. So the target would be to assess for colon cancer, and the action is the means by which that target is achieved, and that is a colon cancer screening. And this part of the rules configuration is kind of counterintuitive. We'll go more into it when we create a CDR. Now, that's a survey of the Clinical Decision Rules module in OpenEMR, just so you've seen it already when we go to create one and use it. Now, the next video is creating a CDR. See you there.